Welcome to the Real Salty Podcast. Please join Stephanie and Caitlin as we dive into life in Florida, the good, the salty, and everything in between. We'll chat about real estate, family, sports, building a community, and all the unique things that make living in the Sunshine State so special. Plus, we'll bring on some amazing special guests to share their stories and expertise along the way. So grab your favorite drink and get ready to laugh, learn, and get a little salty with us. Pros.
We're allegedly pros, according to the stats that you sent me, actually. I mean,
Viewer fan mail.
Well, it is that episode, my lovely listeners. We actually have accrued enough viewer questions or listener questions that we are ready to kind of do a random draw here. Now, Stephanie and I kind of cheated a little bit. There was a lot of questions that were submitted, but we are going to go ahead and start and kind of see where the convo takes us as to how many we're going to get through today.
Yeah,
so,
we teased it for quite a few episodes.
We did.
Well, there's just so much to talk about, but now that football is on hiatus.
Yeah, well, and a lot of these are really good questions, so we can definitely save them for later too, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, some of them, and I love that there's some of them are real estate, and then they won't be real estate at the same time because
yeah. Well, we can also astray any conversation.
Yes.
But we will try to keep it on topic for everyone. So as of the recording right now, it is February 24th, and Stephanie and I are officially having withdrawals from football.
We are. We got some new skis at Woody's.
Yes.
And my husband named one of the skis JD5. We name our skis after friends and family and employees.
I
have had some longevity, and he had to name one JD5. So
I think that he earned it.
Yeah, I think he did too. And it was by my one of my son's girlfriend's recommendation. She's like, "How about Jaden Daniels?" See? And he's like, "Yes." So
yes,
exactly.
No, I love that. Yay! Well, Godspeed, JD5.
Exactly.
Right? There you go. I'm going to watch Michael be more nervous for anybody that takes that one out than any of the other skis.
Yeah, he makes such a big deal of it.
Jaden. Don't hurt Jaden.
Yeah, don't hurt Jaden. We don't need Jaden to get hurt.
I just want to see his face if it like comes back with like dock rash or something like that. It's like, like totally horrified. Sorry. I don't want to see it, Michael. I'm just kidding. I just got specific. So
dock rash. That sounds like Hep B or something.
Wait, what do you call it? What do you call it in the industry?
It wouldn't be from a dock. It would be from two people hitting each other.
Well, I get that. You guys have
kind of like the dock rash, though.
Well, you know what I'm talking about, right? Where you get the nose and it's underneath and maybe it like, the little thing is worn away. So it's like a scratch.
Yes.
But it's not like, it doesn't hurt the body.
I never heard that word before. I like it.
My God, is that a Midwest thing?
Well, no, it's probably someone that makes a living on the boat world but knows nothing about it is who I am. So
wrong. I was going to say that the answer is Trent Evans.
Right.
He's the one that taught me. It had to have come from him. I don't know.
Probably.
I don't know. But there you go.
A little rash. It's just a little Hep B.
I wouldn't put in your guys' clause though, like dock rash or damage, because then people will be like, it's just a rash. It means it can be treated. Like,
yes.
No, that's what we're talking about. So just keep your verbiage.
Doctor, yeah.
Consult your attorney, but keep your verbiage the way that it is. Don't add
a little salt in it, or as we like to say, rub a little sand in it. Not contaminated though.
Non-contaminated, people. Make sure. Check your sand. Yeah. You know what? I might have already said this on this podcast, but I am not looking forward to having to recoup our sandbags because obviously we threw all of them out last hurricane season.
Yes. I mean, they needed to be thrown out.
And understandably,
seriously contaminated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and understandably, like for people that don't live here, you're kind of like, okay, what was you have like 1 day of hard work in front of you. When the sandbagging station opened, they usually limit it to residents only and 10 bags.
Yes.
Right. And so it's going to take a while to
It's
recoup
gonna
how
take a
many
while.
bags we had.
Well, actually, so my father is like a huge sandbag fan, like huge. We have hurricane shutters, so Michael and I are like, we don't get it. The math isn't mathing. It doesn't seem to make a big difference. So my father, whose name is Woody, whose the business is Woody's Water Sports, who was wearing a Woody's Water Sport t-shirt, went to go get us some sandbags for Hurricane Debbie, the one that started the season for us in August.
True. Okay.
August, yeah, August. And
Ugh,
he went
August.
there, and a couple of the townies that work there, which is fine. They're only trying to protect their town.
Thank you for your time too, because they're
Yes, yes.
volunteers.
And
Yes.
this is way before they
Hold the
even,
line.
yeah,
Right.
this
But
is
yeah.
way before they realized like how big their job was just about ready to become. So my dad goes and they're like, do you have a business down? Do you have a are you a resident? No. I have a business down in Johns Pass. Which business? Woody's Water Sports. Woody's Water Sports. Stephanie owns that.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And he was like, yeah, I know. I know. And they're like, we're going to need to see some ID. And he was like, okay. And my dad is so like, kind of understands the rules. Like Michael would have been like, what? I'm our husband. Like, I'm so sick of this.
You're
And
not on the list, sir. Yeah.
I was like, well, and so he got out his ID and they're like, well, this says that you live in Seminole. And he's like, no, I own the business. Like I own, and they're like, no, Stephanie does. And he's like, he's like, I'm actually Woody. And they're like, oh my God.
Okay, good. I didn't know how far this was going to be. Like, does his,
Okay,
please tell me his ID says Woody or Woodrow or
yeah, it
something,
says Elwood, technically.
Elwood.
Elwood, yeah,
Well,
he's named after a war buddy that my grandfather had. But
oh my
he
God.
has all these little funny stories that happens to him, that he's like, you can't park there. This is for Woody's customers. Okay, I'm actually Woody. I wouldn't want to take it from you anyway, but just so you know. So anyway, I'm getting so off
I
topic, but it just was
I
so
won't
funny.
be here long. No, I love that though. But here's the thing, that happened. You said that happens often
It
enough,
does. It
and
happens often enough.
he handles it with grace.
He
Because
does.
how many
No,
people out
all the
there
time.
now would throw a freaking tantrum and be just meh about
Oh
it,
yeah,
and
my
like
mom totally exaggerates the story. Like it was like
they gave him a pat down to make sure or something.
she exaggerates it, and he had to say, "I'm Woody," and he's like, "It didn't happen that way. It did." Yeah, he
Yeah,
totally handles it with grace, but it's so funny. But
I
anyway,
still
sandbags. No one wants to have to prepare for that.
nobody wants to have to worry about the sandbags,
May
but
needs to like slow the hoe down. We are not going to May.
you even saying August in that little story that we went through for a bit, I just went through my head back. I'm like, oh my God, August, because that's 6 months. But anyway,
You
we'll
know
think
what? Then
about
that might mean football season starting. So we'll just keep saying that will be fun.
yes, yes. Oh, something to look forward to. Okay. Well, it is
Anyway,
time. It is time. We're going to
let's
go
do
ahead and get
fun viewer
started.
questions.
Let's do it.
We're so excited about them.
You want to go first or you want me to go first?
I'll go first. Okay. So we're just kind of diving deep. So this came in from someone that wants to retire. As a preface it, she wants to retire in Florida.
Okay.
But isn't going to live here permanently, but wants to kind of start setting herself up for it. Her and her husband from New York. Interestingly enough, she looks at TikTok and sees a lot about these crazy HOA rules in Florida.
Okay.
So she wants to know, are they really that bad? As we all know, well, you do, I do, and everyone else that doesn't live in this area knows that up north, you don't necessarily have the same HOA. Like in Florida, you have HOA and deeded communities, and deeded are more like a subdivision, and HOA is more like a condo, but both of them have, HOA would be still found in a subdivision. So what would your take? Do you think they're really that bad?
Well, her particular question was specifically about rules. So we'll address that first. And then I think that kind of goes hand in hand. We got to talk about prices too.
Yes.
So for rules wise, I mean, yes, have I seen some ridiculous condo rules and regulations when it comes to, traditionally what kind of a lot I feel a lot of people's brain before I was in, real estate, I feel like might have thought of like an apartment building looking condominium. Okay, we're talking about a lot of units, right? We're
Yes.
not talking about a sixplex, we're not talking about, even a 12plex or something like that. Like a lot of units, they do have a lot of rules. And that's because there's a lot of people. So I
Probably
feel like
different areas of the country.
exactly. And I feel like there's a lot of crowd control because when everybody only has, let's say, one reserved parking spot, they have to be stringent on that
They
because you have
do.
so many units in the building. And it's like, yeah, but my brother was in town last night. Cool. But call Bob next door and ask to use his
Yeah.
parking spot.
Yeah.
And it can be avoided by simply being a good neighbor.
Being a good
Right.
neighbor.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
talking to your neighbors. I have seen some really restrictive rules when it comes to, for example, rental. Okay. So if she's saying that they're not ready to get down here yet, but maybe their long-term plan might involve, let's say, acquiring a property, making it work for them, meaning renting it out as an asset before they can fully retire and relocate here permanently. That you got to pay attention because a lot of the communities too you have to have a certain amount of time of ownership
Yeah.
before you're even allowed to do that. So just again, depending on the reason, I don't want to say that I am totally against it because I've also lived in a community myself. It was a single family home community, mind you, but it had no HOA.
Yeah.
And so for any type of, let's say, violation, let's just say mowing your lawn, for example, okay? I had some home on the plains neighbors
Yes.
that literally mowed their lawn 5 times one year. And in Missouri, I feel like a lot of people in the Midwest will know you can mow your lawn 1 week, and before that 7-day week is done, your grass is super high
Yeah.
again at a
Especially
certain
during the
point in the
rainy
season.
season. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so
That happens
literally
up
it would
north
be
too.
oh my God, it was like, first of all, their house was an eyesore, that not well
In general
kept,
too.
fence and just beaten down. Like it was not good. Crap scattered out in front of the garage, vehicles parked in the street, knowing well that they don't run. Okay.
Yeah.
Like they've
Yeah.
been there for
Yep.
months,
Yep.
but it's like to get them to mow the lawn, we had to pester the city to then send them notices. So honestly, I would prefer to have one than to not have,
Yeah.
because
Agreed.
I've had to deal directly with not any cities around here, but a city to try to get my neighbor to just, oh my God, just mow your lawn. And it was bad.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I remember we were we were looking at a home in Connecticut once on just a cul-de-sac because they don't have a ton of subdivisions in Connecticut because just the landscape just makes it difficult. And I remember the neighbor, that was one of the reasons why we didn't even like pursue that house, is because the neighbor had basically like their garage out in their yard, and we didn't want anything to do with that. And you couldn't change that. And so we didn't want anything to do that. So when we were moving down here, I'll answer it in two ways. Like, I remember my mom being like, no, you want a deeded community. And I'm like, well, I don't even know what that means. And so we
Right.
went like in it. It was like it was like October of 2017. We drove there, and which PS was right after, I think it was Hurricane Irene had happened. And we
I was
were
just going
going,
to say,
yeah,
yeah.
right around there. So we were going in and out of subdivisions and then just like home single family home areas. And I was able to quickly identify that we really did want to live in a deeded community for the mere reason that we wanted there to be some rules. In Florida, one of the funny things in a single family home is that, people there, maybe not necessarily you, but your next door neighbor might be boat advocates. And so they
Yes.
might have a boat that's always sitting in their front yard, or they might have a boat they're working on that's sitting on their front yard, or a car
Yes.
that they're not using, but is always sitting in their front yard. So for that reason, and which is comical because we always have jet skis in our backyard. But so I kind of like,
They're in the backyard. No, I was
exactly.
kidding.
But
Yeah.
the reality of it is that we have a fence around our yard so that we're not breaking any HOA violations. And we appreciate the fact that there are them. But Then when it comes to condos, but that's just neither here nor there if you want that or you don't. But then when it comes to condos, so there are certain things. I mean, I guess we wouldn't have to pay for them, but like as a single family home, you do have your grass needs to be mowed every single week in Florida because nothing stops growing because there's just there's no freeze. Nothing starts growing. So that could be an added expense. If you have a pool, you absolutely have to get it cleaned every single week or clean it yourself every single week because of all of the pollen and because things don't die. So you have to do that. And there's multiple other things that,
This is
that
what we
just,
wanted, as we're
yeah,
like, again, things don't die.
exactly. Like, and so everything so there are some monthly expenses that you might not have up north because they're not long term and you don't really hire someone for something short term all the time. But then when it comes to an HOA, you don't want to have to deal with any of those things. Like, or HOA meaning a condo experience, like you want your clubhouse taken care of, you want your grounds taken care of, you want to make sure that things are always upkept.
Exactly.
You want to make sure that the pool's taken care of, that you don't have, whatever it might be. So it's really kind of, I guess dealer's choice as to whether or not you want it. And I know it's expensive at times, but I mean, it just is expensive. It just is.
I was just thinking too, when you were bringing up the kind of like what you can have parked in your driveway. And like, that's a thing that maybe on a topic that she would have been asking about rules. I do find it, I understand on street parking, off street parking. What do you think about though, like if somebody works in a service industry and they are an electrician, or if they're like a plumber, or if they're, a roofing company,
Yeah.
a foreman, and they have a company truck? Some of these neighborhoods, you can't even have it parked in the driveway
No, you
overnight.
can't in mine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Why?
you can't have it wrapped at all in my neighborhood. It's in our bylaws.
Why? Just out of curiosity.
Because they don't, I mean, I would say that they just want to make sure that there's no advertisement, there's no self promotion. They just want it to be like just clean all the way through. You're not allowed to have like even a sticker on your side of your car in my
Okay.
subdivision. They just
Yep.
don't want it at all. And so, I mean, I guess because they're snobby. I mean, that would be one of my,
Well, you usually think that like a rule is established, right? Because something happened
yes.
and somebody had a problem or whatever it is. And so my brain was just kind of like, I wonder what happened. And I never thought about the self-promotion with that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I mean,
And if you have work done, you can only like put the sign in the yard advertising the work for 7 days.
really?
Mhm. Yeah, because they
Yeah.
don't want people just like getting paid for putting a sign in their yard. Yeah.
Well,
I
I would beg
I
to
live in a
differ
really
on the
hooey
fact
teeny
of
subdivision.
what if the job takes like months? You're only allowed to like pick your 7 days wisely.
Yeah.
Or do you just put it at the
No,
bookend and
I'm
then
sorry,
put
it's
like
7 days after the job is
brought to you
finished.
by.
It's
Yeah,
7 days
brought to you
after the
by.
job is finished.
Yep,
Pick
brought
your
to you
days
by
wisely.
ABC General Contracting.
I
And then they're like,
know.
"We have 7 days, damn it." You know.
It's actually 7 days after the contract is finished.
Well, of course you have it.
And we have to get everything approved by the HOA. Like if you want to paint your house a certain color, you have to put in a form. Like, and I mean, that's not any different than a lot of condos that are out, or not condos, but other like subdivisions that are in communities out there. But
Yeah.
um, I think. I think that the state has done a really good job of cleaning up the HOAs at the condo level. Like, does it mean that we're all they're going through some massive growing pains right now? Yes, yes. But we're
Yeah.
on the backside of that and it's
Right.
over and we're moving forward. And then as far as like HOAs, like in subdivisions, I mean, it's good community. Like we have a big, this weekend, we have a big garage sale that like we do it twice a year, once in the spring,
Nice.
once in the fall, 8 a.m. And everyone knows the one day because otherwise you're not allowed to do a garage sale unless you like,
Of course not. No, it's
of
kidding.
course. So, but I don't know if that would help the
What
look
if
of
I
it.
have like white tablecloths at my garage sale? Can I have one then, Patty? No, I'm just kidding. Is it a special permit? Do I have to get a special permit for it if somebody passes? Like I'm not allowed to have an estate sale because it's not the weekend.
It's not the weekend.
What if the estate sale's in the house? then you can do it, right?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Got it.
Well, those happen too. Those happen too because we have in our subdivision we have a 55 and older like little green area where there's a whole bunch of like kind of there's single story condo slash villas.
Okay.
And so of course, God rest their soul. It's a 55 and older community. So eventually they move on to greater things in life or whatever they pass or
It's heaven's waiting room,
it's
people.
heaven's waiting room is
That
right.
is a nice way to put
It
it.
isn't, it's a really good way to put it. But there's a
Again,
ton of
and they
estate
all
sales.
don't wait until the garage sale weekend. So
Yeah.
that's
No,
I'm like,
because the estate sale, they have to have it run by a company in order to have it. So anyway, I'm getting super off topic for this woman. But
okay, no, but the
hopefully,
long and the short is do your research, and it
yes,
depends on what you want to use the property for
just read the
at the time,
bylaws. I
and
know.
read the bylaws.
And sometimes you don't have those bylaws until you put an offer in, but you do have your
Yes.
due diligence to read
Yes.
through them and have the opportunity to make the decision that this is just not for you. Like you do have that opportunity before you move forward.
Yeah. And if
yeah,
that listing agent lied to your buyer's agent and said that the pet weight limit was 100 pounds
yes,
because you have a 90-pound Great Dane and it turns into it's only 35 and under, then you walk away and you
yes.
get your escrow money back.
I
So,
actually was helping a lady a couple weeks ago, and she's so sweet. She was moving into a community and it only allowed service dogs, and she had told me that she had a service pet, and I was like, she's like, I've got the documentation and everything, and I'm like, okay, that's great. Don't that's
sweet.
perfect.
Yep.
So I was like,
Gonna need
when
it.
you apply for the pet, just make sure you put in the documentation. She's like, well, it's fake. I'm like,
Oh, we just it's just my God.
I was like, what? And she's like, it's a fake certificate. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I'm like, and then she ultimately decided the dog was 16 years old. I'm just going to wing it. It's a 4-pound, like Yorkie. And she's like, I'm just going to wing it. Do you even know that 2 days before she's supposed to move in, the dog died?
Oh my God.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And she's like, it's been so sick. That's why I was like, I'm not going to spend all this money for a dog that might not. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so we're so
the dark side of me kind of wants to laugh at this and be
I
like,
know, how
well,
do you not?
he knew when his time was.
He did. He knew he.
Yeah.
Well, which is funny because we moved down here with we had 4 dogs when we decided to move down here, and our yellow lab, he wasn't very well, and Michael would say he's just not going to make the cut, and I'm like, what? And he's like, he's just never going to make it to Florida, and he didn't. He didn't.
And he didn't.
It passed like a month before we moved down here.
Actually, and then we'll get to the next question, I promise. I just had a moment where I remembered I was working with a lovely buyer couple and they had a dog, and like the dog had come with them. I had done showings with them and like the dog was there and stuff. And then at a certain point, we opened it up to communities that would not allow either the size of the dog or just dogs in general. But yet the dog was still being referenced in like conversations. And so I was like, okay. And I guess I didn't realize how old the dog was.
Yeah.
It was a black lab. And then basically it was told to me that, well, we don't really know how much time we have. And so it doesn't really make sense for us to like limit it because of that. I don't even know if I got that. It was just, we don't know how much time we have.
Yeah, sure.
And I think he passed like shortly before they closed.
It's crazy. I
man.
think
Like,
people do
it
that
was
too. It's
crazy.
crazy.
Well, yeah. Like,
I mean, people do that when they're about ready to put in a home they don't want to go to. They're like, no, I'm done. It's yeah, we're getting so off topic, but
yeah, well, and then I'll get dark with it. I was like,
sure
or you're like,
full circles.
or you're like my dad and buy a brand new car for the first time in your life and then pass away like 37 days later.
Oh my gosh.
And the bad news was my mom does not like this car. And to this day, she's still driving it because it made sense for her. Because it made sense for her to keep it at the time. Anyway, we'll talk about that.
Financially, I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
That's hysterical. Well, at least he achieved that in his life. That might have been on his bucket list of things to achieve.
And it was totally a car that he wanted, like he picked out and liked. And she is just like, I hate this effing car. Anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. So next question here.
Next question.
Let's jump around. You know, one of them that I wanted to jump into, and I'm sure we can take this off tangent as well,
Do you think that went on
Okay.
tangent at all?
Oh my
I
god. I
think we
mean,
were so, like, to the
I think
point,
I think we were right on track
and I'm
for the
sure
record.
that person is so clear on what her decision is right now.
You know what? Call us later. We'll talk more. I mean, are we pretty much those women in that Saturday Night Live skit where it's just like, oh, I was verklempt.
I
Like
don't
you
know.
gotta
No,
call. Oh my
it's bad
god.
news. Bad news. It's
No.
raining outside, but
Oh my
don't
god.
worry, it's sweater weather.
It's sweater weather, thank God.
It is
Thank
sweater
God.
weather. I'm wearing a sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Uh,
okay.
okay. So next question I'm going to pick is actually one, and I want to talk about this so bad with you because I feel like as a business owner in your industry on the water where people are just naturally shirtless anyway. Okay. This comes from a lovely, this comes from, I shouldn't have led with that. Okay. It comes from a lovely listener. Okay. I actually can't pronounce the handle, so I'm not even going to try, but it looks like we are actually from New Hampshire.
Sexy Betty.
He wishes. Actually, I don't even know if we can guess anymore. But okay, question. And it starts out in all caps. Be honest. Okay. Promise, right? How many Florida man stories have you actually personally witnessed?
Oh my God.
So, speaking of shirtless guys, that's where I was going with my intro on that because Florida man, I mean, were you aware of quote unquote Florida man before you moved to Florida?
No, I wasn't.
Me neither.
I wasn't.
Me neither. Me neither.
No.
No. I mean, back home, we just call those guys the guy that still noodle catfish.
Yes.
Where they reach into the riverbank and get bit and
Exactly.
pull out. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So down on the dock.
Yep. This is what I wanted to hear.
Yeah. So usually this person doesn't have any teeth or very, very bad use of teeth and has never cleaned them up, usually.
At a certain point, they stop hurting and they can just take them out. I've seen it.
Yes.
I've seen
Yes.
it. Actually, in dentistry.
Exactly.
God. Anyway, go ahead.
Exactly. So, I mean, I work in a fishing community, right? Like that's where it was found. And so it's a fishing community. And so the priorities are just very different. And there is a freedom that Florida man has that I do think is a teeny weeny bit envious because there's a
No,
carefree,
no F's given. Exactly.
really, like there's a carefree off the grid like mentality that
I'm jealous of.
I'm so like psychologically like go into these like SVU deep thoughts where it's like, well, what happened? Like, was there something that pushed them off the grid? But that's because that's the New York in me. That's not because that's just the lifestyles. There is a
Right.
true Florida, like, and yeah, I mean, there's just a true Florida person that is off the grid and just loving their life. And we will say, I just don't understand why, like, there's work to be had, but they don't get it. And it's they only go after it when they need the money.
Yeah.
Rents do.
Yep.
Rents do. So it's really amazing. It's amazing.
I think that you witness more of real Florida man than anybody that is
Probably, yeah, probably.
current company included,
Yeah.
and probably a lot of our listeners. But the one thing I'll say is that you don't have to be waterside to find a Florida
You
man,
do
though. I
not.
mean, I feel like personally, a lot of the videos, okay, and I promise, lovely sir, we will get to the actual question of personally witnessed. I got a few things, especially going through the hurricane. Like,
Yes.
yeah, I saw some people that I would be like, Florida man.
Yes.
But I feel like a lot of it too is like Central Florida. What people
It
don't
is.
realize too is the thunderstorms that go through here. Like it's practically its own tornado alley.
It
Like
is.
being
It
from
is.
Tornado Alley myself, you don't think about the fact that all these storms that come in off the Gulf and then they rise up when they hit whatever pressure system there and then they hover over
Yeah, they're a
Tampa.
water spout, which AK is a tornado.
Exactly. I know about those too. But
Yes.
and then they just wreak havoc like all the way I feel like from like Eastern Tampa to Lakeland and Orlando, and it's like it's crazy because it is flat, right?
Yeah.
And so
Right.
you got the guy that's outside his house holding the flag
Yes.
in the hurricane, right? And never has a shirt on.
Never.
He
Never.
might have sunglasses on, but he definitely has a bandana on.
Yeah. Definitely has a bandana on.
Colors TBD,
Yeah.
right? And so usually also American flag.
And
And
another
it's just
flag.
like,
We listen and we
and
don't judge.
usually we listen and we don't judge, but it makes for good socials. I
It's
mean, people take that video and they run with it. They
yeah,
create
okay,
all the
only in
little gifs and the
Florida,
memes and
right?
everything. Exactly. And again, maybe it's also just a sign of the times because we've been here a few years now,
Mhm.
you longer than me. And I venture to say that the reason we weren't aware of it before we moved here is because social media hadn't made it what it
No,
has become now.
no, it had
And
no.
now it's just like the whole country is like, like, look at
Yes.
Florida, look how
Oh,
crazy
yeah.
they
Oh,
are.
yeah. I mean, there's so many times and I've probably become a little bit numb to it as I've, like I just
Yeah, me
roll
too.
my eyes and I'm like, Florida. Certain things. I mean, it's just not that uncommon to go down the road of like Seminole Boulevard, which is PS like 8 lanes across for the fine folks that don't know. 8 lanes across, and the guy's driving a Honda Civic and he's got a mattress strapped to the top of it. I mean, that's just so Florida. It's crazy.
On the other side, he's like hanging on to it out the window like
Oh
Ace
yeah.
Ventura.
Oh yeah. There's like double duty. He found the weather person on the side of the road to hold the other side. And thank God it's got one of those handles so that you can turn the bed every 6 months so you can hold on to it. But yeah, I mean, it's
Exactly.
just not that. I saw a truck that was like a pickup truck that had like 8 stacked on top of it. But yeah, so we definitely witness some crazy, crazy stuff down here where you're just like only in Florida. Like, and there's earned its name rightfully, right? There's just more population, so there's opportunity for
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. I have to say that I'm going to group too the people that actually walk through the flood waters. And I'm not talking about people that are trying to get the hell out of Dodge that are trying to save their lives. I'm talking about the one where the news cameraman, it's T minus maybe 8 to 12 hours before the storm's making landfall. The water's already come up over Bayshore or whatever over in
Yeah.
Tampa. And you got a family, you got a dad that's literally in waist deep water already there on the boulevard.
Yes.
And he's got kids with him.
Yes.
And I'm just thinking about the sewers are already flooding.
Yes.
You
PS
got electrical
alligators.
lines
Yeah.
everywhere. I am surprised actually about how many I guess maybe not really because there's no basements here.
Yeah.
But how many lines down here are not buried, people?
Yeah.
Okay. We're still relying on the power
Yeah.
poles and everything. And so it's like one of them takes it down. It's just a domino effect. And so, but you're walking through that. And then you think about like, let alone the sewage and the risk of electricity and the fact that it's also like, wildlife,
Yeah,
people.
the wildlife alone, if the electricity doesn't get you and a lightning bolt, then the wildlife will.
And I'll agree with you that allegedly, on the regular, alligators are more scared of human beings, right? It's been fantasized with like, all the TV shows and everything like that, all these aggressive beasts or whatever, but it's usually a territorial response or
Yeah,
they're trying to defend their young or something like that, right? And I'm like, but you have to remember that these wild animals are in a panic right now,
they're in
just as
panic.
you should be,
Mhm.
Gerald, or
Yes,
whatever your name is.
yes.
It's like just as you should be, and you shouldn't have your small children waiting out behind Casey or not Casey TV5. God help me. I
Yeah.
just had a Kansas City flashback. Fox 13, right? And she's
Exactly.
like on the boulevard, like in a poncho at 50 feet, and you see a family behind you, and you're like,
Yes.
Darwin.
Yeah. So, and a lot of, and I would imagine that it would be fair to say that there's an educational piece to it as well, that they just don't continue to stay educated on things. So they might just not know that something's about ready to come. And so all of a sudden, like, just like their family, they're like, it's kind of getting weird out. What's all the family and friends doing in the area? Right. And that's kind of what happens too. There was this guy that was in Madeira Beach for a really long time, we would come down here. He wasn't
Keep
here.
talking. I just realized I'm out of beverage, so keep
Okay.
talking.
Yeah, we would come down here. I mean, we were coming down to the Madeira Beach area from 2005, maybe six, all the way for 10 years, just say. And there was a guy that would be always at that 7-Eleven right by our office and would just kind of move around. He'd go over to the Speedway. And Michael would always say that he like stares into his soul every time he would like drive by him. It would be like he would just be like he was just
I think
staring
I
into
know.
his
I
soul.
think unless you tell me this gentleman has since moved on, I think I know what gentleman you're talking about, and he's still here.
Oh, maybe.
He was a vet or is a vet.
Oh no, that guy came into our office not too long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had spent some time talking to him.
Okay.
But this other guy, I don't think he's actually around anymore. I think that he passed. Well, and then some, remember there was that YouTube video that was going on, and this is like from 2015, where there's a whole bunch of people living on the islands, like Eleanor Island
Mm,
out in Johns Pass, and that was like an area
yes.
people would live. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely, you can go off the grid here. I mean, and and I started the conversation by saying that, I mean, I think that there's a simplicity to that that's pretty amazing to me. And there's
Yes.
just,
And I'm
as long as they're mentally and health, they're mentally okay. And it's just a true choice.
exactly. And I'm all for being able to make your own choices. To me, and I don't even have a dog in the fight. So why do I care? Mind your business, Karen. It's the kids. Okay. And I realize this is also, there's plenty of Florida man / woman
Yes.
/ to be your own, and that it is a generational,
Yes.
right? And there's again, the same thing in the Midwest, but safety, just
Yes, it's safety.
safety with the minors, man, or for, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying don't let him drive the truck on the farm. And I'm not, in Kansas, you can actually, a 13-year-old can drive a vehicle as a farmhand.
Well, I'm
Can you
pretty sure
believe
that
that?
here they still do.
13, is that right here?
16, but I'm sure that
13.
yeah, I think that the one thing when it comes to the kid, that's crazy. Well, I'm sure my father did when he was growing up, because that's just like what you did
Well,
when you live on the farm, right? Like that's what you did. But
they knew his name was Woody, so he was
they did,
allowed.
yeah, they knew. I mean, they just knew that he was a rule breaker and always defying the law. So, they but I do think the one thing that surprises me about the culture here, like from a raising kids standpoint, but it's
True.
actually not just Florida, because I've heard and talked to people from other parts of the country, is how many people, like there's a difference when you have kids of raising them and like breeding them, right? Like there's just two different things. And I say that where it's like, I know I could name quite a few people off the top of my head of parents of my kids friends
Friends.
that they're like, once they're 18 they're out, and
Well,
that's
and I've
crazy to
never
me.
I've never heard it broken down like that, but it makes so much
It
sense.
does.
Raised versus bred.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's your responsibility. They felt like at some point it was their responsibility to breed, and then like I mean, and it's not just Florida. I mean, Florida
Huh.
has the population that is just so intense compared to. I mean, Michael was saying this like yesterday, that just how there's not a day that's on the news that we don't hear of something, but it's like, but there's so many people that live here that, and or vacation here, and that part really surprises me, of the people that are just like, they're 18, they're on their own, and it's like, well, what do you mean they're on their own? And and then it makes me go, wow, I really coddle my children, but that's just kind of where I'm at in my life. But I
This is a whole nother place to turn an
it
18-year-old
is a whole nother
on their
place.
own. Like, I think about the fact that, yeah, like
Rent
most
is
of us, whatever,
expensive
you
in
go
this
off to
area.
college, but it's like you're in a dorm
Yeah.
with like people
Yep.
age-wise, why you're all there to go to school and do whatever, and you're still not like out there. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And it's like, of course I knew it all, but children. They're children. Like,
Children.
sorry.
Children.
Sorry.
The children.
They are
No, but for the
children.
guy that possibly, what I will say from a business opportunity, if this person is considering moving down here because for whatever reason they're interested in moving down here, if you are um, have a good work ethic, you believe in kind of building an empire, for lack of a better word, like you're building your future so that you can one day retire. It's very easy to be successful in this area because there's so many people that are that's actually just not, that's just not what they're looking at as their pillars of life. They're just looking at it as like, I'm just living my life. Like, I'm not sure. And so that part is really encouraging. But um, as far as like, so yeah, you run into a ton of people that are just, oh my God, they're from Florida.
I think that this person might have wanted instead of such a, I mean, we did get a little funny there, but it's like we don't have time to get back into it. But trust me, I think he was going for like, he wanted the nitty gritty. He
Specific.
wanted like the dirt on
Yes.
basically. And the only thing I can say is that hurricane, because I did mention this before we really got into it, during the hurricane or after the hurricane, and when we had relocated back to the island full time in October. So it was shortly after Milton. We were already sleeping here on the second floor above our flooded out place. We saw some shit.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
Because it was very soon. There were still trash mountains outside of every structure growing by the day. And then it was like, organize this and all the things. But when you talk about the fact that with power, there was power, but like a lot of the street lights were out.
Yeah.
Like obviously
Yeah,
a
they're
lot
just
of
working on them now on Gulf.
the structures were dark.
Yeah.
So it's like, even if you were out here, there was like 10% maybe of people that were back again. So it was so dark. And it's like, we were one of the first people to get back on the street, and we set up all these solar lights that were like motion detecting blood. We set up cameras as far as we could from angles.
He's got like a map. He like has a map like Dora the Explorer, and he's like, you're like Dora and he's Diego, and you're like, we need to have this map. And do you have your backpack? Because just in case, we need to evacuate quickly, sweetheart.
I was told to buy a pair of deck boots and get ready to live. So we had already, no, I'm just kidding. I already owned the deck boots because we had schlepped everything out. So
I've decided.
I did. And then, what was funny is after Milton, I remember the city came around and there was a company that donated a whole bunch, men's and women's.
Yeah, I saw them at the store.
Yeah. And it was the same brand that I bought. But anyway, at night, people, like, when there is a breakdown in what is considered our first world, like amenities, like I said, street lights and normal patrols and your neighbor's home, so no one's going to be trying to break into their house. It's already wide open. Okay.
Yes.
And it's just like, you had this sketch. We caught the weirdest shit.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
On our
camera. I'm sure.
And I mean, if we wanted to, we could actually probably make a YouTube video that's minutes long of the snippets of the highlights of just what the hell.
Yeah,
kind of
sure.
thing.
Totally.
And it was a venture of everything from people trying to sneak in broken glass windows, people knocking on a door at like 3 a.m, acting like it was normal. People reaching up under vehicles or checking gas tanks to look for keys, people burying into the 2-story pile of trash to get to the trash bags that were at the bottom of the pile
of it. Yeah.
And at that point had been flooded and engorged for months.
Yeah, they were acting like they were on that show where you buy a storage unit and see what you can find in it.
And I'm all for like the actual respectable, don't get me wrong, the respectable scrappers that came and decreased my pile by at least half.
Yes.
And they weren't just throwing things around and stuff like
they
that.
Were actually
and
looking at it as with value.
Burying 6 feet into the pile. And I'm like, what would happen if that pile actually collapsed on that guy? Are we responsible since it's on the property? Like, it's the weirdest stuff.
I think
but
I would
anyway.
have to like, we don't know what this guy's name is. We'll just call him Daryl. I think I would have to follow up and say like, let me just keep an eye open for someone so I can tell a story about. I can't say, I mean, I just explained the community that I lived in. So I'm pretty sure that it's fair to say that I don't typically engage in folks that are of this this banter, but I will say on the opposite side that it is an amazing thing when you go to the beach with your family
Yeah.
and you are looking at all the people around you. And the one assumption that you can say is that they probably just spent the whole year saving to go do
Yes.
this. And you're
Yes.
just here on any given Tuesday.
That's
And
true.
that part is super special. And so
It is.
I don't think that I have this whole like judgy, I don't know, like I don't think that I'm in a place of judgment and I don't think I'm in a place of envy, which I guess is a good place to be in. And I don't,
So you really are taking this 2025 saying of we listen and we
we
don't
don't
judge.
judge. That's right. Everyone's got their own story. And like I said, I come from this place of like, oh gosh, I hope they're like mentally okay.
Yes,
And I can't
exactly.
help but think that all the time. So
And there's going to be people that have wrestled gators for years, you know what
yes,
I mean?
which
Or
is
like danced
why,
with them in the pond.
yeah.
And it's
So
like,
interestingly, like the whole gator wrestling thing. So you're allowed to employ your kids at the age of 14 if you own the business.
okay.
But there are a list of things that you're not allowed to let them do
My God.
until you're 18. Now
Okay.
that would be a funny podcast because the things, so we obviously have a business. When we moved down here, my oldest was 13 and so he couldn't wait to legally work. So we had to
Yeah, make
look through
fun.
everything to see what kind of the deal was with it. And that was on the list. You
You're
are
not
not
allowed to
allowed to
wrestle
allow your child under the age of 18 if you own the business to do alligator wrestling. So some
the fact.
MFer
Yep.
did
The
that at one
fact
point because
the
that is Florida. That
that
is
is
Florida.
Florida, baby. That's what I was about to say. I'm like, if that
Does not
we're gonna
define
end, we're
Florida.
gonna yep, we're gonna end the Florida man question on that
Yes,
because
because
that,
that
my friend,
defines
I don't know what
Florida.
else. I don't know what else to say besides the fact we had to put that in the law.
Yes, it's literally on like the Department of like Human Resources or whatever it is in Florida
Yeah.
because of that.
Yep.
So
All right. Oh my God. Okay. Well, what other question do you have that we would like to go over tonight?
let's see if there's another one that we can squeeze in here.
Yeah, maybe. I was gonna say because
Let's see if we could squeeze in one more.
yeah. Sorry.
See.
Looking through options and I'm like, oh my goodness.
Let's see. Okay, let's end it with well, this is kind of I mean, I don't know if I think it's ridiculous, but this is the one that I see all the time. In the
Okay.
world of chat GBT and AI and
Yep.
the world of just making your life simpler, and the problem that we see is that we don't see people edit those things. And so this person asked a real estate question, and it's probably cleaned up because I feel like the MLS has been cleaned up since August, since they like really pay attention to it now.
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
there's watchdogs all over MLS making sure that we're not disclosing certain things at times. And that's okay. Like, I understand we want to make sure we're not steering and blah, blah, blah.
Nope.
So, but this
Exactly.
question was the most ridiculous thing that you've seen listed on the MLS. Now, the one thing that I don't know if I've necessarily, there's pictures that I think are funny. And that's what cracks me up more than anything are the pictures.
Yes.
Because that's when you know the home is so emotional, is because they include pictures of their kids swinging in a tree. Like that's going to sell the home. But the one sure sign that you know that
Breeders, right?
yeah, breeders is right. But the one thing that I know that I've seen that you know that it's like AI generated is when the word boast is used.
Boast.
Boast.
Yes.
If you see the word boast, you know it's AI generated.
Well, there you have it, folks. See, they're already coming up with basically, we already know what you did, Debbie.
Yeah.
And you're lazy.
Yes.
And we're judging you.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
And I don't even mind that you use AI, but just edit it.
Yes. Well, good to know, people. If you use boast more than once,
just even once, you know that it's generated. If I put in like public remarks and like try and put in the details so that I just make sure that like I'm editing it properly so that it doesn't sound like it's crazy. If I put that in, it always pops up both, and that's how you know it's AI generated.
And this is where, so I'm sorry. The original question was
The most ridiculous thing you've seen in the MLS.
the most ridiculous thing
Yeah.
I've seen in the MLS. Okay. Well, before we get away from your boast comment though, I remember when Trent had, I think, yeah, it was a BMW car. And when you would use the navigation in the car, she was very proper and she didn't have a German accent. I wish she did because I think it would be more funny.
Was it English?
But it was
Well,
English.
right.
It
Why
had
wouldn't
a
she have a
slight
German?
English accent,
Right.
but it was like, in Google Maps, and it's like in 5,000 feet, prepare to turn right, right? It says that. It says in 5,000 or in 1,000 feet,
Yeah.
prepare to turn right. Turn right in
She
100
was
feet or
just super
whatever.
formal
Now,
and proper.
no. So she would say, prepare to bear left. Prepare to bear left. And then it was like, bear left now. And it's like whenever you were on, like, I think it was like highway ramps or something like
That
that.
is
Sorry, with the hand
hysterical.
gestures. But to this day, we still joke, like,
I'm
it's
sure
very
you did.
sporadic, but we still joke about it. I'm like, prepare to bear,
That is so, I actually love that.
prepare to bear.
It's the formality, right? Maybe it was the
But
bad translation.
she said it, that's exactly, that's just what
Like
I'm getting
Squid
at is
Games, it
I
was
think it was
badly
like a lost
translated
in
season 1, but
translation.
not 2.
And whoever was in charge of like soundproofing, foolproofing the English version of what she was going to say, they're like, just let it in.
Yes.
Like, somebody's going to laugh at this. So
And we still are. That's
either
hysterical.
that, what would probably happen is that England probably had their people approve it, which it makes sense, or it would, even though I have nothing to back that. It just makes me think that that's something an English
You
person
heard
would
from the
say. And
queen.
then the American person just took it and was like, good enough for England, good enough for us, and just pass it on through. You know what I mean?
That's hysterical. You're like, I heard from the queen and she said it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that, okay, so what is the craziest thing I've seen on the MLS? Sometimes the realtor remarks with basically their mandates of how any type of contract package needs to be submitted or what needs to be included, or what really gets my goat as an agent, and then I'm going to get into the weird shit. What really gets my goat is like, you don't use any type of e-signature and you refuse to accept anything, even if it's from, for example, dot loop. If I attach the PDF, like,
Right.
it's that threatening of instructions. And again, causing friction out the gate about accepting a contract on a home that you are employed to sell.
Yes, they're employed to sell. Right.
I hate that. That's a
Yes.
major turnoff for me. And I'm just like, call it and be like, hey, Mike, and be like,
Yes.
so I'm going to send this, but rest assured, I'm going to have PDFs at the bottom, totally just for transparency. And
Yes.
so I can log it in my system.
Yeah.
I haven't really had anybody that I've reached out to verbally be like, grumpy cat or whatever about it. But I'm pretty sure that the good people wanted to know what's the off the wall visual thing that you have seen
Yeah.
in other people's
It's
private
pictures.
homes.
It's
That
always
is the
pictures.
weirdest thing. It's always
It's
pictures,
always
and a lot
pictures.
of the times it has to do with decoration, but for me too, it also has to do with, I liked when it's a lot better now when they have a 3D floor plan, right?
Yeah.
But have you encountered a 3D floor plan where they didn't go in to one of the doors?
Yes. Yes.
Have you? And then did you show that property and you
No,
got to see what was behind the door?
I can't say that I've done that.
I have shown one. I have shown one. And it, as far as I'm telling myself, so I
I'm scared.
don't think too much into it. I'm telling myself it was just like a Jodie Foster safe
Yes,
room.
safe room.
Okay.
Safe room.
The door, the locking
Yeah.
mechanism, the thickness of the walls where they can't hear
No.
you scream.
Oh,
Like, I don't know. But anyway, I'm telling myself that it was a safe room because back home you would find this in basements. And it's like, that's a storm shelter. That's where you go when there's a
yes.
tornado.
Yeah, no, that's
You
right.
know what
That's
I mean?
right. That's right.
And that makes
Yeah.
sense. But I'm telling you, there were features about this that was very, let's just say it was a safe room, because otherwise it was, I think maybe all the equipment had been removed. If you're getting at what I'm
Yes.
putting down about,
Well, in Florida, it could be a gun room for all we know.
no,
Nope.
no,
Oh, it's a
not where
red
these,
room.
not where these drill holes were.
So it
I'm
was
pretty sure.
possibly a red room.
It was a red room.
It was a red
Yes.
room.
I've never heard it called that, but I already know what you're insinuating.
Have you
And yes,
not seen 50 Shades of Grey?
I have not. I know. I don't know how. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was like a playroom, a red room.
Yeah. I was just going to say the safe word room, but
Same
yeah,
difference. They had a
that,
safe word. Yeah, exactly.
of
Yeah.
course they did.
Well,
Oh,
I should say, there is a movie and it really wasn't well done, but
I'll give
there's
him this.
there's 3 books and of it too.
I don't know how I wanted to ask the listing agent so badly. Buyers weren't interested for different reasons.
Yeah,
We
I
had
just
a
want to be
good
like, so
laugh.
do you know what that room was all about?
I wanted to ask them, but this agent was incredibly dry. The fact that my people were like, nah, it's not the house for us. And like, they weren't petty enough as I was to
Yeah,
like
to want
press
to
the
know. Well,
issue.
when you start going in all these houses, you actually are intrigued by different rooms. It's
Yes.
one thing when you're going in with a purpose because you're like, no, it's not the house for us. We'll keep moving. But for us, it's like, I need to understand that a little bit more.
I want to know how much this listing agent knows.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I immediately went back and I checked, like, do they have a relation to the seller? Because you have to disclose that in the
Yeah.
MLS.
They
And
do.
I'm like,
Yeah.
please tell me you have a relation to the
Yeah.
seller.
Please tell me you are the seller so I can ask what you're doing.
Dude. And then immediately Nancy drew that into socials and
Yeah.
like, oh my God. And it's like, trust me, people, we're not doing anything malicious with this information. It's just for our own
It
nosy
is. It's
Nancy
just because we
knowledge.
go in and out and we got to make
That's
it.
it.
I had a listing agent last week. I called to get what the combo was because you put it through Showing Time app and then you get there and you're
Yeah.
like, where's the super key? What is going on? And they're like, oh yeah, sorry, we're on a combination. And she says to me,
The fact that wasn't given. Okay.
I know, exactly. And like
Go
the
ahead.
first listing agent didn't answer, so I had to call the second one, which is fine. And she said to me, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the number is blah, blah, blah. And I don't need any feedback. I just need an offer. I'm too old for this shit.
I actually love her immediately.
Well, first of all, Caitlin,
And
you can
then
imagine how hard I was laughing instantly out loud to her. And I was like, oh my God, I actually love that she's like, I'm just too old for this. I don't have time. But then the irony is that she sent me a text message the next morning and says, any feedback for my seller? And so I replied back, we're not putting in an offer.
period. Yeah.
Period. Literally, period. Because I was like, that's all she said she wanted. So, and I put a laughing emoji after it. So
If
I
we
did put a
caught her,
laughing emoji afterward because I had laughed so hard at her the night before.
did she respond to that at all?
She gave me the old thumbs up against the,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm wondering,
I laughed so hard out loud that when she said that to me,
I cannot wait until I can say that. I cannot
actually,
wait.
Michael said that the other night. He's like, I am so happy about getting old so I can just say stupid stuff and get away with it. And I'm like, not to me.
Yeah. We're going to put a sign on your back, right?
Exactly.
People are like, just don't mind him.
I've
Sorry
had that
about
since we
that.
started dating.
Yeah.
So, whatever.
Perfect. She's like, I've actually had it sewn into the
Yeah,
tags on the back.
exactly. Yeah.
That face.
It's self-disclosure right away.
It's actually tattooed on the back. If found, please return.
Exactly. So,
okay, I just got thrown off on basically what we're gonna have to get from Michael because we're gonna have to get one of those child backpacks that has a leash on it.
yeah, we might actually. We might have to.
It's okay. We'll only use it when you guys take me to Europe.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so remind me again. Apologies. We're so all over the place and I love it so much. So the only thing I have to say is I just wanted to know, because when we talk about interviewing for the job to sell the home, I'm back to the safe room. Sorry, I'm jumping around. When we interview for the job to sell the home, we usually talk with the seller about what might need to be done to the home to make it more appealing to market.
Yeah.
Whether it's decluttering or taking down personalizations or repainting, maybe a fresh coat of paint, excuse me. But I want to know, was this shown to him or divulged to him? I remember it was a guy. Or divulged to him and asked his opinion, or did the people just not bring it up at all and be like, room won't be available for photos. It's just a closet. You can show it, but not yet. I want to know how that was broached.
Yeah,
You
that
know what
would
I mean?
actually be a good question because we do try
Because
and look in every single
again,
nook and cranny.
yes, yes, and we're like this closet,
Only
like
because we're
everything
looking
was
for that special something to advertise, right? Like that makes their home unique. I mean, we really are. We're not, it really is. We're just trying to say, like, what is it different this home versus another? But yeah, I don't know. That's
and
funny.
see, only somebody that was kind of crazy like I am, where I try to imagine like, okay, this walks into this, and this
Yes.
is because sometimes one would think that the listing agent would usually sometimes feature the key photos out the front, but then it kind of is in my brain naturally thinks you take them through the house. So it's like the close up of the front door, then you get inside the front door, then you see the great living room, and then you go from that into the dining room, and then you go to the kitchen. So it has a flow, even if it doesn't have a 3D floor plan, where you can kind of imagine how this house meanders. And the fact that it was listed as a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and they showed us the 3 bedrooms and the 2
So
bathrooms.
this was a bonus room.
And then I'm like, what does that door go to? And then we just chalked it up to maybe the hot water heaters behind it, maybe the air takes intakes behind it. You know what I mean? And so it's like, we'll schedule a showing. Oh no. Yeah.
Yeah, because even
And it
as the
was,
listing agent, you would say, okay, if you want to show, can you like take me through your home and just because you're trying to get some of those like key things from them
yeah.
that you can put in the public remarks, but then also like when you're trying to sell it, you know that there's something special. But
Yeah. They could have said, oh, and there's extra storage here off of the hallway in this giant oversized linen
is that
closet
house
or
still for
whatever it is.
sale? Because I need to go see this.
It's not, and they've already taken down. They did a good job. It's sold. This was God. This was probably two and a
Did
half
they
years
take down
ago.
the MLS pictures in the back
They
end?
did. They did. Yep. And I have searched my email because I've actually told this story. I have searched my email to try to see if I had any type of like singular image saved or
Yeah.
shared it to Trent or
Yes, exactly.
you know what I
Yes.
mean, like
Yes.
and laughed
That
about
is
it together.
hysterical,
But like
actually. I don't
I
think I've ever
cannot.
seen that. I did see um there the one of the last houses that I was in that like was they're thinking about listing it, but they're not getting as much as they want to, so they might not. They had
Yeah,
like
maybe not
it
now.
was like the bathroom, like it was the primary bedroom, but like there's no privacy for the
Oh no.
bathroom. I mean, it had the toilet, had privacy, but like the where the shower was located and then where the vanity was. And then there was like stairs going down. And so the person, he did not do this, but the person that he bought it from had carpet. And I was like, what kind of
Ugh.
show would be going on here? Like, I'll be out of the shower in a second. I mean, Florida's notorious for having like a very open primary bathroom,
Yes.
notorious for it, where you go through it, and if you've never been to one like this, you always say, oh, maybe I could put up a barn door, because it's very open, it's very, very open. Whereas like up north, it's like there would be absolutely a 6 panel door separating you from
Oh
everything.
yeah.
But so
Oh yeah.
Florida's notorious for that, but this was at a whole different level. And the way, like, it was just so bizarre. Like there was carpet, and it wasn't even like new carpet. It was like green shag carpet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Sorry.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Dreamcatcher, baby. I
Oh
like it.
yeah.
You know what? You just mentioning a bathroom, though, you just gave me an idea. Do you remember that Broker's Open that we went on that bus
So I didn't
and
go to that, but I've heard this and I love it
oh my God,
because
I'm
I
so
was given
sorry.
screenshots like from all of you that were there. It was hysterical.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I would be remiss actually not to mention this because you guys wanted scandal. So we'll just leave this to the imagination and we'll leave you with this. So there was a house that was listed on the MLS and the photos, let's look because they're probably still
They're
there.
probably
The photos were there. It was here along the beaches, beautiful home, waterfront home. And off of the primary bedroom,
expensive home
the
too.
expensive home.
Yeah.
That's
The
right.
brokerage
And so
opens
off of the
usually are pretty expensive, or they're super classy and like you want people
Oh
to
yeah.
come see them because there's high end.
There was, yep, exactly. There were sponsors, there was champagne, there was, snacks, all the things. And I think they even, some of them had like a band. Anyway, the point is in this primary bathroom, the ensuite, okay, of the primary,
Ensuite.
I'm trying to like explain it in the camera. So basically, when you walked into this giant open bathroom, it was a his and hers, or excuse me, dual sinks on opposite sides of the room. And then there were
Which is
two
common
toilets.
sometimes.
Yes, no, and that's great. I'm all for having your separate stations because that's a struggle right now with all of the things that I use to keep it off of a tiny counter that we both share.
Yeah. And now
But
it gets ready for Saturday Night Live.
it almost looks like a dormitory in the fact that basically when you walk into this bathroom, if I remember correctly, on the opposite walls here that run parallel to the entrance,
Yes.
you have a sink and a sink, and then you have against the exterior wall two toilets.
Two.
But then people, down the middle of this entire bathroom is an entirely glassed enclosed shower. Okay, I'm sure it probably had the rain shower in the middle and the dual heads and everything like that. But keep in mind, it's completely glass down the middle of this bathroom, which means that whoever's in the middle of that is on full display. And if you got two people taking a piss while someone's showering, they all can see each other.
Yes. Or like I looked at it as it's like stations.
Yes.
Station 1 at the vanity, station 2 at the toilet, station 3 get in the shower. That is like literally a Saturday Night Live skit from like Will Ferrell era where it was like toilet for two for Valentine's Day.
Oh my God, you're totally.
That's what it like. Kristen had called me and told me about this toilet, and I was like, oh my God, it's like Saturday Night Live vibes.
Oh my God, you're absolutely right.
I don't even. So funny.
I don't know. It was one of the weirdest things. So then, of course, when you have four of us real estate agents that know each other and get along, and we
may
had
not
to
have
do
had
a photo
drinking
shoot.
going on.
No, we had to do a photo shoot. So basically, like two of us were sitting on the toilets, and then two or three of them got in the shower, and we're taking photos from this side, and then we're kind of like putting them together, and it was amazing.
It was literally like you.
Yeah, but that's not something we'll be sharing on the socials because we keep it professional.
We do.
We just tell you about it, but you're not going to get photographic evidence of it. But
professional.
The 4 or 5 squirrel friend agents that were there, this photo shoot, and it was.
I saw the pictures. It was hysterical. I was crying. I was laughing so hard.
Prepare to bear.
Prepare to bear.
That's what that bathroom literally like. Its vibe is prepared. You're preparing to bear. Sorry.
That might have been worth the 20 grand, 25 grand to fix it before listing.
And if I got strike me down, but I'm pretty sure it was like all black granite everywhere.
Yeah,
everywhere.
No, it was. Yeah, if I remember the pictures right, it was black granite everywhere.
Which gives a very Scarface vibe. But it's like, you have to clean that, man. You have hard water, things we say now.
Yes.
I'm like, you have hard water. That's going to show everything.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a water cycle?
Right.
No, then you got hard water here. That's right. Don't drink the water.
Don't drink the water and don't reuse your sandbags, people. And spay and neuter your pets, for the love of God. All right. Rest in peace, Bob Barker.
Right.
All right. So we're going to wrap up today's episode. We do realize we got through 3 questions. So I vote this. We either continue this charade next week. However,
we do
just
have
to kind of give a
little non-real estate questions too. So we might need to do that.
I think we might need to do that. I don't know. You know what? Let us know. We're going to release the episode and then we'll figure out what the people want.
That's right.
That's right.
That's it.
Because we try to give the people what they want.
Always.
Alrighty. Thanks again for listening in. As always, you can find us at the Riverside Studio, the Real Salty Podcast, and check out our YouTube channel. We actually are trending, I think, on that. So, real YouTube channel, Real Salty Podcast. Don't forget the Real Salty. So, all right. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.